You are tuned in to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Tonight, I'm delighted to welcome Laura Magdalene Eisenhower to the show. Laura is the great-granddaughter of former President Ike Eisenhower. She has recently become known for her interviews on www.exopolitics.com with Andrew Weber and with Andrew DiBiago, due to her claim that some of the elite have approached her to travel to the existing Mars base to ride out the 2012 energies, which they must feel are threatening. She refused. Today, she is on a spiritual mission to bring divine union, Christ Sophia, to all planes of existence through an intense journey of the world's soul in order to harmonize male and female energies and balance humanity and nature. As a co-founder of Ascending Earth 2012, she works to return our cultural wisdom, renew the Earth's resources, and combat harmful global threats. She is also a clairvoyant counselor and natural healer who has the will and passion to transform even the most lost and broken souls out of hell and misery in order to awaken their true self and spiritual path. Continuing both the Eisenhower and Magdalene legacies, she has battled dark hidden forces and agendas in order to protect humanity from larger global crises. Growing up around political leaders and influential people, Laura easily accessed the part of her nature that will not rest until global freedom, justice, and peace on earth is established, as well as our reconnection with the vast universe, including all races, star systems, and dimensions. So let's welcome Laura to the show now. Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good tonight. You have had such an interesting life. It's beyond interesting. And it's not over yet either, is it?
No.
Now, how did your childhood support you in discovering your true nature?
Well, I guess, any kid is connected to their true nature. But as far as what I was just sort of emerging into, what I was kind of up against, and what was going to be the conditions for me to really understand what I'm kind of here to do, there were a lot of triggering factors growing up. Just being around the type of family that I was in, and there's certain things that were coming at me that were beyond interest or wanting to do research. It was sort of something had found me that kind of uncovered an awareness of something that goes back thousands of years, really. And it just seemed to be an endless story that just showed up again, a little bit different this time around, but it's sort of this cycle connected to Venus to assist us in getting through this shift in the most positive way. That hit me at a very young age. And then the Ike factor, my connection with Ike, being very tuned into that, and this other spiritual aspect of my being helped me understand and prepare for this. And I very in touch with it, and I couldn't communicate it to anybody, so I just wrote a lot and made sense out of it the best that I could until I was immersed in it completely and totally.
Huh. What were some of the difficulties that you faced along the way?
Well, let's see. Starting at about the age of 8, I felt a lot of the dreams I was having, a lot of the insights I was having. It's like knowing like what you're in for is going to rattle you to the core, and you have to hold on to dear life for everything that is what your truth is, and what it's nobody else's truth necessarily, but it's just holding on to the part of us that we don't compromise or give away to anybody else. And, that was very much pulled, yanked out from underneath me a number of times, and I just refused to let that happen. And as I fought to just hold on to my, I guess you could call it true nature, I just recognized, like, wow, there's something going on here that is absolutely opposed to something that seems so natural or so in need of being expressed, on this planet. One can look back at history and realize that we haven't had that. And then when you're a child and you just are in touch with it naturally, there's a critical point where the programmings and belief systems and powers, try and yank, all that creativity and magic and insight and wisdom and everything that, we're here to bring into the world, tries to pull that away. And I just felt it very strongly, part of, just being from that family and just a lot of expectation due to that. And then just knowing that there is some sort of legacy that I was inheriting or certain agreements or decisions, insights that I had that had never been brought to fruition sort of landed on my lap, connecting to the military-industrial complex. And I just felt that I had to resolve these things, bring them to fruition, create resolution, and take it all the way to where he intended, but also to what us as a people and a humanity would just really require for justice to be served, and some of us are merged with those notions and that passion and desire to make that happen, and other people, really aren't. And it was definitely obvious to me that was what I was most called to do. And then it connected to the feminine energies and the goddess in exile and Magdalene and Sophia, which I didn't expect, but that all kind of came down the chute and sort of found me. And I'm like, wow. And then I could connect all the dots. I'm like, well, this is interesting. And as I've kind of grown up, I've been able to kind of piece it all together and make sense out of how myth and the esoteric and the more abstract natures of our soul really connect to our global crisis and politics and global elite and the archons and the lower alien races and all the agendas. So I sort of saw how these two forces were kind of merging in my space, where one seemed to be the problem and the other seemed to be the solution. Whereas the problem or the thing that was really getting to me was what Ike had to handle becoming president, and that all his ideals and his true nature of maybe, just what he really represented to all of us got completely taken over by the presidency and the power structures that exist on layers that none of us can really see. And, I could really recognize that pain that he went through, and my communication with him as a spirit was really profound, and I couldn't even believe it. But kind of like, okay, he was president, but there's, in general, and yeah, that's great, and, he did his best, and here's the great things he offered, but the deeper layers underneath it, connecting to ETs and connecting to these agendas, and, the spillover from the Nazis and that whole kind of duel, definitely hit me. And I just knew that I had to resolve it somehow. And that's where the Magdalene thing sort of came in, and the Sophia thing is a part of the missing link, not all of it. Something within us all that we're here to kind of awaken, just to illuminate the aspects that are lacking and deficient, just like anybody would do in a human body when they're not well. What vitamins do you need to take? What's missing? What's the root of this? And so on those levels, I got in touch with that as well. Not just the political, but what's under the curtain of the curtain, very behind the scenes, very deep, very hidden stuff in the roots of all of this. The ancient game, starting from the beginning of time, Sumeria, and after that, just traced it all the way back and just really recall, being a part of that or living through that and carrying the same kind of code or mission that has been an endless mission of mine. I don't know. It's a mission of ours. I mean, this is definitely a dilemma that many of us are facing right now. That I'm definitely not going to ever lose, and that's part of a lot of the attack was kick one out of that awareness, and no matter how many times it knocked me down or tried to kill me, I just could never let go of, I guess, what I wrote as being true nature. It's just kind of all of our divine blueprint, our true essence, our real capabilities that we've been given away to other powers that are now dictating to us what we should fear, what we're capable of doing, when our body tells us we're sick. And it's a lot of us don't know how to have that self-healing, self-generating ability anymore. And So I just recognized a lot of that, throughout school, taking science classes, microbiology, and just always having a backdrop of all these kind of other hidden things that you don't see every day that creating what we see today is a very deficient culture that seems to have all these solutions, but just end up taking our money and taking our power and our imagination and our creativity.
It does seem that there's a very dark agenda that those who have worked themselves up to the top of the pyramid are attempting to unfold, which does not include mankind's awakening. It's more or less a private escape plan for their own continuation, isn't it? Yep.
And that's sort of where I see the oil spill coming in. We can see things as an accident, or maybe we read things or hear things that a part of it was planned, and then they thought they could contain it, then it got out of control. And then there's all these solutions and technologies out there that are all being ignored. They're all very repressed. We can't get any real answers. Truth keeps changing. And I see much deeper than that, what are these off-planet agendas? I mean, there's so many agreements with, alien races, not of the higher order, that do want to save us and are setting up backup plans that do not consider nature, do not consider Gaia, but actually are using technologies that mimic the creative forces of Gaia, and that also, are trying to reenact it as an imitator rather than an originator, which puts us in this false matrix system that we're all aware of, that is very much run by, we could call the global leader, the Illuminati, or just the ones that want the ultimate power, and, we're being really robbed. And so coming from a non-fear-based position, I'm sort of, helping us redirect our energy so that we're not being robbed and that justice happens, and we kind of, we can freak out because of this oil spill, and I'm sure we all have moments of the day, I certainly do, where it's so absolutely overwhelming it's hard to stay present, but, I see it as another insult, like Plan F. I've kind of lived through Plan A through E, but here's another one of, let's just destroy the environment completely. We have off-planet colonies. We have all these technologies that are hidden. They kind of have the universe in their hands to kind of go where they will with it, kind of leaving us in this beautiful planet that's slowly disintegrating into just mayhem and ruins and just how can one really regenerate? They're harming innocence. But where I stand is sort of this regenerative kind of personification of that force in a sense, to remind us that, not to make it light or put any new agey metaphysical terms on it, but the planet is so powerful, and it births all these alien races. It births all these structures that have turned against the mother force and tried to set up their own system. So it can never, ever take over. It can never defeat and conquer nature, Gaia, or any of, the cosmic love in the universe, but it'll certainly try and convince us that that's what it's capable of doing. But it can't. So as bad as it seems, I'm kind of here I'm weathering the storm, just like everybody else, completely mangled by it all. But, there's a part of my consciousness that will never, ever buy into the fact that we're defeated or in harm's way, maybe temporarily. But we've had many lifetimes, all of us, of death and, torture and all sorts of things. So we can get through this, but it's certainly a testy time. It always is, isn't it?
Yes. But it seems in particular at this time because it's the closing of so many different periods at the same time. And there's so much at stake for us to wake up and, finally step up to the plate and take our power back.
Yep.
So,
yeah, because it's the system, and it's we're living in the manifestation of those things having enough influence in the material world to get to our children, affect our partnerships. I mean, nothing is set up to really promote our well-being and our harmony and the higher road, and so we have to be bold and revolutionary and warrior-like to just refuse its influence and start from whatever you want to call it, grassroots level, from ground up, and hope that some people that are normally funding the things that aren't working can actually turn their attention on the things that can actually get us out of this mess. Because the solutions are there. The majority of the attention has to go on that rather than,